Pickle, let's get into some headlines. Headlines from across the state. We're going to be pretty heavy on the high school coaching changes. By the way, the coaching changes should be going up today or tomorrow because of Steps' situation. It's fallen a little bit behind. I know you guys have been asking, but the coaching changes page on TexasFootball.com will be updated today or tomorrow. But there's some big ones to get to. Let's start down in the smallest 11-man classification, and that is that Mart, one of the most decorated programs in Texas high school football, is looking for a new coach, as Kevin Hoffman has retired after winning 3 state championships there after 7 seasons in charge. He took over back in 2016. He led them to 4 state title games. He won 3. Of course, they went to the state semifinals this year. I saw Coach Hoffman at
the state
championship games. Mm-hmm. And there are some things now about our conversation that make a little bit of more sense. Some
was he hinting?
Yeah, he had been hinting that he didn't want to coach forever. But coaches say that all the time. He's not an old man. I'm sure his wife likes me saying that. But he said that he wants to spend more time with his family. He went 83-8 there. They won 12 games or more every single year that he was the head coach there.
Wild.
That is wild. I do wonder. Mm-hmm. So the Mart's going to be a really interesting job. It's a very small town with very high expectations, and you got to know that job inside and out. Mm-hmm. So I'm interested to see. I bet they go to somebody who with very close ties to the program.
I was going to say, yeah. Do you think it's a promotion, or do you think just someone outside?
I could see somebody being promoted from within, or I could see somebody with very close ties to Mart, former player, former coach, something like that, who understands it because it is a unique circumstance.
I did see a Darby Brown, our friend down there at one of the Waco stations, did an interview with Hoff, and she was asking, what are you going to do in retirement? And they were talking about traveling and blah, blah, blah. And then he goes, and I already told Coach Don Hyde, don't be surprised when I show up at 5:30 a.m. just to talk ball.
Yeah,
he was like that. He goes, it's in my blood.
He's going to show up on his doorstep. He's going to be sitting in his truck on the way to practice.
He goes, he said, I know you're up there at 5:30. I'm going to come by.
Anyway, we wish Coach Hoffman the best. He's, of course, a good friend of Dave Campbell's Texas football. And the other thing about Coach Hoffman retiring, I don't know. I keep thinking about how things might be different if they had won in 2020. If Windthorst hadn't upset them,
right? And
then I wonder if things would have been different if they had won this year. If they had won 5 in a row, which was they were within 2. They were within a play of winning against Windthorst, and they were within a play or 2 of winning against Fall City to make it to a title game. Who knows what happens if they get to the title game?
Right.
But I don't know. That's revisionist history. It's interesting. It's interesting to think about. Other big name openings that are happening. That is Brenham.
Yeah.
Is open. Brenham is open after Elliot Allen has departed. Elliot Allen has been there for a hot minute, but he is off to take off. He's going to be the athletic director at Bastrop ISD. Bastrop ISD, he's leaving Brenham to go take over there. That's a good job. Brenham's a good job. Brenham is
ice cream.
Well, okay, sure, yes. Bluebell is there, but. Perhaps the other thing about them is that this is a program where you can win. They've got great facilities there. They've got great infrastructure there. They're a program that is no stranger to making the playoffs.
Crowd support's fantastic.
They have made the playoffs every single year since 2004. Of course, go ask Glenn West, who was the head coach there for forever before he went over to work at the THSCA. What a good job it is. It is a really interesting job that is on the rise there. Keep an eye on Brenham. I think there's going to be a really good candidate list to see who is going to be the new head coach at Brenham. Next thing on our list is, this came down this weekend, I want to say, and that is that that Waskom is going to be looking for a new coach. Waskom is looking for a new coach as Whitney Keeling is leaving to go take over as the AD and head football coach at Tatum. Quite an interesting development here. Waskom, of course, had a fantastic season this year. They won a pair of state championships under Coach Keeling.
State semifinals this year.
They were state semifinals. They went back-to-back 2014, 2015. They've made it to the state semifinals 5 times in his 12 seasons there with the Wildcats. Very, very decorated coach there and Coach Keeling, leaving to go take over Tatum. Tatum is a good job. Mm-hmm. Tatum, of course, has had success at the highest levels as well, coming off of an 8-3 season. But yeah, a bit of a shocker there, I thought, because I think Waskom is going to be pretty loaded next year. But that's a really interesting job there. But Whitney Keeling has left Waskom for Tatum. Big news out there in East Texas. Elsewhere in East Texas, deep East Texas, Darrell Barbay is leaving Jasper to go take over at West, I believe it's West Mansfield High School in Louisiana. Now you're probably thinking, wait a second, what's he doing going across state lines? If you know where Jasper is a stone's throw away from Louisiana. Yeah. So this is in many respects like Whitney Keeling moving from Waskom to Tatum.
Is a bigger move.
Kind of a similar move. It's not that far. But of course, Coach Barbay has been there, the head coach since 2012. Very successful there, made the playoffs every single year. And it'll be very interesting. That's another big-time job down there in Jasper with a lot of tradition, a lot of pedigree, and a lot of, look, they've always got athletes. They've always got athletes in a program that I think it's not going to be hard to win there. I think they've got a lot of good infrastructure there. Mm-hmm. So keep an eye on this one. Jasper is now open down there in deep southeast Texas. So keep an eye on that one. Okay, let's move to the college ranks and let's talk a little bit about. And it's going to be hard. It's very hard to keep up with the transfer portal.
Oh, dude, it's going wild right now.
So we're going to do like top level stuff that catches my eye. I'm definitely going to miss a few of these.
If you want more in-depth stuff, go listen to Republic of Football.
Right,
because I guarantee you they'll cover way more stuff about this than we will.
One of them that I think is very interesting, though, and this one really caught my eye, and that is, this was early last week, but Ochaun Mathis is leaving TCU, or at least has entered the transfer portal to leave TCU. He was arguably, I think this is the biggest loss for TCU if he were in fact to leave. He is, quote unquote, reopening his recruitment, is what he said. He's been there for 4 years. He was a 3-star prospect out of Manor, but has established himself as an absolute superstar, a 2-time all-conference player there off the edge. But he is a big time. That's a big loss for them. I think you can make an argument that this is a bigger loss than Zach Evans.
Right, yeah, because they actually utilized Mathis every single play, basically.
I thought he was one of their very best players, but obviously, look, I don't want to start, assuming things, but that's what we do on the show.
So why not?
You would have to imagine that he had a pretty tight connection with Gary Patterson.
Absolutely.
And you have to imagine that what has changed there, right? It's just the head coaching and the staff there. And especially given the timing that now it's about a month after Sonny Dykes has arrived there in Fort Worth, you have to imagine that he looked around and said, okay, I'm going to give these new guys a chance. Mm-hmm. He looked around and goes, you know what? I think there's a better opportunity for me elsewhere. And he's entered the transfer portal. This is a big loss, I think, for TCU. Ochaun Mathis was a huge part of that defense.
To the possible new home of Gary Patterson.
Well,
all of those rumors
that have
been coming in,
right?
been coming around.
Kind of hot and heavy. So that's something certainly to keep an eye on. This is a little bit under the radar, but it came down over the weekend, and that is that Alabama tight end Jaheel Billingsley is transferring to Texas. He entered the transfer portal. He is being reunited with Steve Sarkisian. He had a breakout year back in 2020, I believe, when Sarkisian was the offensive coordinator. He caught 3 touchdown passes. He's a guy from Chicago, but he's going to finish his career there at Alabama with 17 catches, 256 yards, 3 touchdowns. But Texas will add another tight end there in Jaheel Billingsley, transferring from Alabama to be reunited with not only Steve Sarkisian, who was the offensive coordinator, but also his position coach was Jeff Banks. Mm-hmm. He was the tight ends coach there at Alabama. Now, of course, an assistant coach there at Texas. One more that came down and maybe flew under your radar a little bit. And that is that Texas State has picked up a transfer quarterback in Dillion Markiewicz from Syracuse. And if that name rings a bell, and I know it's hard whenever they go off to like the ACC or they go off to
the Pac-12,
or they go off to these far-flung places, and especially, all due respect, but like not the contenders in those conferences.
Exactly.
It's hard to keep up with these guys.
They get lost in the haze.
Exactly right. Dillion Markiewicz was the headliner on that McKinney North offense from a couple of years ago that was so high-flying. I thought he was a real steal for Syracuse. He goes up there. I think he's entered the transfer portal. He is now going to come back to Texas, going to go to Texas State. There's a lot of things moving right now. I don't know what the depth chart at the quarterback spot looks like for Texas State right now.
I don't think Texas State knows what the quarterback depth chart for Texas State looks like.
But Dylan Markiewicz, I think, is certainly going to have an opportunity to win the job.
Smart kid, too, if he got into Syracuse.
Absolutely. So coming back to Texas, that's something to keep an eye on there. And finally, I want to give a shout out to a friend of the show, and that is Alex Brown. Did you see this?
Yes, I did. I was the one that sent it in the Slack.
Alex Brown, of course, is now the former director of recruiting at
Rice.
And NFL liaison for Rice.
Hoot, hoot.
Is going to be the new director of scouting for SMU. So he's going to be a little bit more local to us.
And he's from Dallas, I think. So he's welcome home, is what they kept saying.
I believe that's correct. I believe he's a DFW area guy. He's been there. He was at Houston for 4 years before that, working on the recruiting side. But Alex Brown, of course, he's been a guest on our show, buddy of the program. So congratulations to Alex Brown getting that job there at SMU, moving from Rice over to the Hilltop. Those are some headlines from across the state.
Thanks so much for watching that video. If you would like more and to be notified when they come out, go ahead and click that subscribe button right down there. You can also watch Texas Football Today every day live at noon on TexasFootball.com, Facebook, Twitch, and right here on YouTube. For more of the best coverage of Texas football in the Lone Star State, go to TexasFootball.com/subscribe.